Inner tranquility is a dimension of life that can be delved into a little bit. What does it mean to have inner tranquility? In the plain sense, it seems to mean that I am not anxious, or at least overly so. I'm not stressed, at least to a breaking point. My mind is not going in circles, spinning in circles endlessly. It's not scattered all over the place. I'm not besieged by intrusive thoughts, by different chains of associated ideas, this, that, and the other, that I find myself acceptable to myself, that I'm not constantly freaking out, bugging out, nervous about tomorrow, about next week, about next year, about the future, guilty about the past, full of shame, full of doubt, full of fear, that kind of stuff. How do we win some inner tranquility for ourselves that is genuine? The latter can be emphasized, that is genuine, because we see that we often try to secure some inner tranquility that is not genuine, that is counterfeit, because it is counterproductive. So, for example, I can try to attain to inner peace this evening through means of the bottle or otherwise, but it'll come back to bite me the next day or the same night. I can try to attain inner peace by disassociation. I don't know what's going on. Let me just pull back, excuse me, from my experience of life and just perceive myself, or try to get myself to just perceive it and not be involved in anything, as far as that's possible. I can try to win some pseudo inner peace by assuming blanket generalizations or statements, for example, or self idealizations. For example, I am all good, period, end of story, no discussion. Or I am all bad, period, end of story, no discussion. Or I don't exist. Right? I deny that I exist as an individual. I'm one with the universe, and that's it. Period. End of story. Goodbye. Right, so those are some pseudo means. Why are they pseudo means? Because they do not fulfill the demands such that need be fulfilled. Would we attain to true, lasting inner peace and tranquility? What are those demands? It would seem that the kind of peace, the kind of tranquility that is desirable is one such as is a result of inner order and an inner, say, balancing of the different aspects of human individuality. So, for instance, as an analogy, we could consider something such as a bridge. Right? A bridge presents us with the picture of, if it's a big bridge, a massive weight, right? For example, where the cars go, being balanced on the whatever they would be called, on the supports, on the beams, and there's other means of balance, right? Depending on the type of bridge, it could have cables in place. But basically, scholars would tell us, physicists would tell us that there's a tremendous amount of tension and force here going on, right? But it's all balanced out. And consequently, the bridge is at peace, and it's a functional peace. It's not being torn apart, hopefully. Like, scholars will also tell us that there's a tremendous amount of pressure in the atmosphere, and yet we're not crushed by it, presumably because the pressure counterbalances itself from the inside, from the outside. Those are just analogies, however. The point being that as a human individual, there's a tremendous amount of stuff, so to speak, going on inside of me. I have my existence such as is rooted in my anatomy, in my animality, and consequently I have a whole host of appetites, impulses, drives, so-called instincts, reflexes, and I have my psychology, such as it is, with my kind of ingrained patterns of thought, of reactions, which may or may not be properly adaptive, excuse me, not be healthy and well adjusted. There's a lot of stuff going on, and then there's my present spontaneity, how I currently perceive something, and how I respond, and how I'm thinking, and how I'm feeling. So that is to say, then, that the experience of life that is not sterile, that is not kind of short of what it could be, is supposed to be something like a battlefield. It's supposed to be a place of conflict, a place of war, sometimes even, because our goal is to become who we can be as a human being in general and as a particular individual in the face of all of these forces, in the face of all of these different aspects of our inward existence and outward existence. And obviously, we didn't even touch upon the environmental factors and the family factors and everybody else's issues and the society and the present pathologies in the society and so on. So there's so much going on. So that's to say that it's supposed to be tough. We're supposed to have conflict. We're supposed to have an inner war sometimes going on, or at least inner battles going on. Life is supposed to sometimes be emotionally, intellectually painful. We're supposed to endure lots of stress and duress and turmoil. That is normal and that is necessary. And in fact, fleeing from it prematurely might well be that which leads to so many pathologies, so many problems and issues later on down the line. So, for example, let's say that one option is to fight the good fight in terms of controlling my lower appetites and impulses that are not socialized, that do not care for anybody's well-being, including my own. Right? But one option is to fight that good fight, to have a lot of conflict, right? To fall down, get back up, fall down, get back up, hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe tens of thousands of times, right? To not be sure as to how the verdict will go. Will I be victorious over myself, or will I ultimately fall? All of that. But I fight that fight. And in the course of fighting that fight, hopefully I mature and I develop and progress and deal with those issues. If I refuse to fight that fight, I deny it. I say, nope, I am a perfectly saintly, perfectly good person. There's none of that. That's in those other people. And other people fight with their lower impulses, with their animal drives, with their weaknesses of their character that could lead to all kinds of things and all kinds of addictions and violence and who knows what. That's other people. Me, I don't have any of that. That's a lie, and consequently, it'll come back to bite me. I live in my self-idealization. I'm such and such super nice, super socialized person without any kinds of problems, without any kinds of friction, nothing going on beneath the surface at all. And then perhaps when I least expect it, when I'm well situated in society, right? When perhaps I have established a family life, a professional life, not having dealt with any of those issues, not having fought the good fight, having refused self-knowledge out of pride. I'm perfect. There's nothing wrong with me. Right? That comes back to bite me. And it can get me in the worst situations at the worst time, as we see every single day reported in the media, for instance, concerning all kinds of persons, none excluded. So that's just an example. I fight the good fight or I refuse. I don't want conflict. I want peace, tranquility right away. And then I'm stuck with those problems. And then it becomes even worse. Now, with that said, just like a bridge, right, that remains standing, balances out these great forces, with all the cars pressuring down, right, with the foundations staying there, with the cables, all that kind of stuff. We can, through gradually ordering our inner life through not refusing any of those fights, through not denying anything about ourselves, through not acquiescing to, at least permanently, to our flaws and our weaknesses, right? For example, I have a propensity for violent rage, and I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to say it's good and I'm justified, and everybody who disagrees is evil and an idiot. That would be just as wrong as refusing to see my rage in the first place. I see it, and then I say it's in need of improvement. So through doing that, through fighting those fights, hopefully I can eventually establish that inner order, that inner balance, that enriched, expanded inner environment where my weaknesses, right, where my Achilles heels, in the plural, however that would be said, will not destroy me, right, will not absolutely capitulate me and kind of cause undue chaos. Meaning, for instance, let's say that there's a small puddle, right, and we throw a stone into the small puddle. If it's small enough and the stone is big enough, it'll make a big splash. It'll really disturb the surface of the puddle. However, if we throw that small stone into a big lake, then it'll still cause a splash, but most of the lake is unaffected, and that's it. It doesn't spill over. No big deal. So just so, initially, my inner environment, meaning myself, I'm small. My mind is narrow. My ideas are limited. My ideals are low. And consequently, I am subject to all sorts of inner assaults from all kinds of, again, appetites, impulses, disturbances, pathologies, anxieties, depressions, stresses, and so on. So many things can shut me down or create this utter lack of inner peace and inner tranquility. However, again, if I fight those good fights, I don't run away from anything, I don't acquiesce, right, then eventually, hopefully, that inner environment can expand. And now, even if I have some kind of unhealthy idea, I have some kind of anxiety, I have some kind of fear concerning some area of my life, right, because I'm big inside, like the big pond, not the small puddle, it's not going to finish me. It's not that big of a deal. It can be a big deal, but it's not that big of a deal. There are, unfortunately, individuals, and always have been, that take their life if and when their wealth is uh, overly affected. Meaning, I've lost all my money, right, on the markets, savings, whatever the case is, and now, tragically, I go and I try to end my life. That would be an example of being a very small puddle, and consequently a stone thrown in it, boom, goes overboard or over the edges. However, if now I'm big inside, right, I'm not limited in my identity, excuse me, to simply being the one with this money, being the one with these financial interests, these business interests. I'm large inside. Something like that happens, I lose all my money. It's a big deal for what it's worth, but it's not all of me. It's not the end of me. I might even smile and be on my way, right? Or by the next day or by the next week, I'll recover and it'll be okay. I have other ideas, other ideals, other interests, a larger inner environment, and it's not such a big deal. So that's another way to approach it. Right? I balance out those inner forces. I enlarge my inner environment. I try to order my inner and ideally outer life as it concerns what is possible. And obviously, physical conditions are a part of inner peace. Right? To try to have some food and some water and not be too hot and not be too cold and have a place to sleep. That's all part of the picture. So I do what I can. And then hopefully the result will be just like that big bridge that stands there peacefully, even though there's all these forces going on, all these pushes and pulls, tugging, however it would be best described. Hopefully, then I can be like that bridge and I can have a genuine, well earned peace, a well earned, proper inner tranquility that is not the result of any kind of escapism, any kind of denialism, any kind of self-deceit. And obviously that sort of inner peace is priceless. So it is well worth pursuing. We can consider it. Thank you for listening.